In a small, forgotten town called Black Hollow, hidden deep within dense forests, terrifying events took place. The locals locked themselves in their homes after dark, avoiding the streets at all costs. It was said that something lurked in the darkness, something that watched, waited, and chose its next victim. A young journalist named Adam, known for his articles on paranormal occurrences, decided to uncover the truth behind these stories. He arrived in Black Hollow armed with a camera and a notebook, determined to expose the legend that had haunted the locals for generations. The first thing he noticed was the eerie silence that enveloped the town. The residents avoided him, refusing to talk about what was happening. Only an old man named Victor agreed to tell him a story. In a dusty inn, by the flickering light of a candle, Victor whispered to him about the shadow, a presence that emerged from the forest at night to claim people. Anyone who heard its name after dark was doomed. Adam dismissed these superstitions and decided to explore the town after sunset. But the moment he stepped onto the empty streets, he felt an unusual pressure in his chest. The night was unnaturally dark, the air still, and every house had its windows carefully covered. As he walked further, his camera started flickering. He looked at the screen, and his heart skipped a beat. In the reflection of a shop window behind him, he saw a figure tall, indistinct, with black eyes that seemed to pierce his soul. But when he turned around, there was nothing there. He quickened his pace, but whispers surrounded him, seeping from the very walls, the ground, his own mind. The words were faint but unmistakable. "You heard my name. Now you are mine." Adam ran, his breath ragged. He tried to find his way back to the inn, but the streets had changed. They were longer, darker. The buildings seemed twisted, as if shifting in the shadows. At last, he stumbled upon an old house with an open door. Without hesitation, he rushed inside, slamming the door behind him. The air inside was eerily still, as if sound itself had ceased to exist. His breathing slowed. He scanned the room, old furniture, dust-covered portraits, a stifling atmosphere. And then he saw it. In a mirror on the far side of the room, his reflection was missing. Instead, someone else stood there, his own image, but with hollow eyes and a grin that didn't belong to a human. Suddenly, the reflection moved. It took a step forward. Adam couldn't move. "Welcome home," his double rasped. The door slammed shut, and the world around him went black. A few days later, a new visitor arrived in town. A young journalist named Peter. Rumors spread that he had come looking for his missing colleague, Adam, and no one in town knew who Adam was. No one had ever heard of him. But as Peter wandered the streets, he caught sight of a shop window, and in the reflection, did he imagine it, or was someone smiling at him? Determined to uncover the town's secret, Peter followed in Adam's footsteps. That night, he ventured into the streets, pursued by his growing fear. The invisible eyes watching him felt stronger than ever. On the edge of town, where the forest met the last houses, he noticed a silhouette. A figure stood among the trees, motionless. Its body was thin, unnaturally tall, and its eyes glowed like embers. Peter tried to take a photo, but his camera shut off. Footsteps echoed behind him. When he turned, no one was there. But when he looked back at the figure in the woods, it was closer, paralyzed by fear. He turned and sprinted back toward the town. He could feel something moving behind him, something chasing him. As he reached the inn, the doors slammed shut behind him. The room was empty, but he knew he was not alone. The mirror on the wall began to ripple as if its surface were liquid. From the shadows, a hand started to emerge, the same hand he had seen in the forest the next morning. the innkeeper found Peter's belongings in his room. But Peter was gone. His name vanished from the guest list. No one remembered he had ever been there. And in the inn's mirror, in the reflection, now stood two figures. Both were smiling. After Peter's disappearance, strange occurrences in Black Hollow grew more intense. Though no one remembered him, whispers filled the inn at night. Shadows moved without cause, and mirrors reflected more than they should. The innkeeper, Victor, the last person to see Peter, grew increasingly uneasy. He reached out to an old friend, Clara, who had experienced dealing with paranormal events. Determined to find answers, she traveled to Black Hollow. From the moment she arrived, she felt it the oppressive weight in the air, as if the town itself was breathing. Every house carried an unspoken horror, and every street radiated emptiness. Clara checked into the inn and began her investigation. That night, she had a peculiar dream. She stood before a large, cracked mirror, and in its reflection, she saw not only herself, but two figures with hollow eyes. When she woke up, a yellowed notebook sat on her bedside table. It wasn't hers. She opened it and read, "If you are reading this, you're next. The mirror has seen you." A chill ran down her spine. She realized she had stepped into something far darker than she expected. Every mirror in town revealed glimpses of another world, a dimension where Adam and Peter were trapped, trying to escape. And something was keeping them there, a darkness that fed on fear. Determined to uncover the truth, Victor and Clara ventured to the abandoned school at the town's edge. Rumors claimed it held the key to the mystery. As they stepped inside, the doors slammed shut behind them, and every mirror in the building shimmered with a faint, eerie glow. In one of the classrooms, they discovered an old, dust-covered mirror. Clara wiped it clean, and there he was, Peter. His face was gaunt, his eyes empty, his hands reaching out in silent desperation. "Help me," he whispered. Victor tried to look away, but his own reflection grinned back at him, a grin that wasn't his own. Then something happened that made their blood run cold. Their reflections stepped forward from the mirror. The mirrors no longer just reflected. They wanted to replace them. Clara grabbed Victor's hand, and they ran. They needed to destroy the mirrors before they were lost forever in the other world. The air thickened, the walls shifted, and the darkness clawed at them as they fought to escape. Would they manage to break the cycle, or would their reflections take their place in the world of the living? The mirrors whispered their names. The choice was no longer theirs to make.